The night was quiet in Palo Alto. Sundar Pichai sat alone at his desk, staring at the screen, the glow of the monitor reflecting in his tired eyes. Google's CEO was known for his calm, his strategic mind, and his unwavering focus. But tonight, his hands trembled slightly. A message blinked on his phone. "Sundar, please call when you can. I really need you." It's from his sister, Naina. He hadn't spoken to her in months, not because they were distant, but because life had pulled them in different directions. Sundar was wrapped in meetings, innovations, the future of technology. Ananya, back in Chennai, was managing the family home, caring for their elderly mother. Their lives were worlds apart, yet tied by a shared past of narrow streets, school books, and late-night talks under a small roof. Sundar hesitated. What could be so urgent? He dialed. Her voice cracked as she answered. "Sundar, I didn't want to disturb you, but I don't know where else to turn." He felt a chill. "Tell me, Akka," he said softly, using the Tamil word for elder sister. "Amma has been unwell for weeks. The doctors here, they don't know what's wrong. She's weaker every day." Sundar closed his eyes. His mother, the woman who'd made him sit with textbooks under a single bulb during power cuts, who'd saved coins to buy him a second-hand laptop. His heart clenched. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" he whispered. "You're so busy, Sundar. I thought I could handle it, but I can't." That night, Sundar couldn't sleep. Every image of his childhood flooded back. Amma waking. At dawn, making doses, sending him off to school with encouragements. His success was hers. His journey from Chennai to Silicon Valley had been built on her sacrifices. He booked the earliest flight. The next day, without press, without security, without announcement, Sundar landed in Chennai. He wore a simple shirt, jeans, a cap pulled low. At the airport, Ananya was waiting. Her eyes were red from worry, but they lit up when she saw him. "You came," she whispered. "Of course," Sundar said, pulling her into a hug as they drove home. Sundar looked out at the familiar streets, the corner shop where he'd once bought ice cream, the playground where he'd dreamed of the world beyond. When they reached home, Amma was resting on a thin cot. She looked so small, so fragile, her frame lost in the blankets. But when her eyes opened, they sparkled. "Sundar, my boy," she breathed. He knelt by her side, taking her hand. "Amma, I'm here now." For days, Sundar stayed, quietly arranging for the best doctors, the best care, flying in specialists. He cooked simple meals with Ananya, washed Amma's hair, sat with her through the night. Neighbors began to notice. Whispers spread. Wasn't that Sundar Pichai, the Google CEO, home in this little street, helping his mother? People gathered. Near the gate, watching, marveling. But Sundar paid no mind. Here he was not a CEO. He was a son. One evening, as they waited for test results, Sundar sat on the balcony with Ananya. "You should go back soon," she said quietly. "Google needs you." "And what about here?" he asked, voice tight. "Amma would want you to keep going." But Sundar shook his head. "Google will be fine without me for a while. Amma is my world." The next morning, the doctor arrived. With the results, Ananya gripped Sundar's hand tightly. "It's a rare condition," the doctor explained. "But there's hope if we act quickly. There's an advanced treatment, but it's only available in the US. Ananya's face fell. "How can we do that?" Sundar's eyes sharpened. "We will." Within 24 hours, arrangements were made. Visas, flights, hospital bookings. Everything moved with the quiet precision Sundar was known for at work. But now it was for the person who mattered most. At the airport, reporters had gathered word having leaked. Cameras flashed, microphones were shoved forward. "Mr. Pichai, is it true your mother is unwell? Are you leaving Google temporarily? What message do you have for your fans?" But Sundar gently raised his hand. "Today, I am not here as a CEO," he said softly. "I am here as a son." That line echoed across social media, across newsrooms, across dinner tables. People watched the footage, touched by the quiet dignity, the humility, the reminder that even giants kneel before the ones they love. In Los Angeles, the hospital was ready. Sundar stayed by Uma's side every day, reading to her, bringing her small treats, reminding her of home. But behind the scenes, something stirred. Inside Google's headquarters, tension was building. Projects stalled, meetings piled up. Competitors watched closely. Could the company survive without its visionary leader, even temporarily? Within his team, some whispered anxiously, "He needs to come back. He's abandoning us." But others defended him. "He's doing what matters. Family comes first." As Sundar sat in the hospital room one evening, his phone buzzed. Assistant had sent an update. A crisis was unfolding. A critical system at Google had failed unexpectedly and teams were scrambling. Sundar looked at his sleeping mother, felt torn. He called Ananya outside. "I need to go back. Just for 2 days. Are you sure? Amma is stable now? I can't let thousands of people down." Ananya touched his arm gently. She would understand. And so, another unexpected journey began. Sundar flew back, landing quietly at night. His team gathered in the war room, the brightest minds of the company. As Sundar entered, there was a hush. He rolled up his sleeves. "Let's solve this." For the next 48 hours, Sundar worked side by side with engineers, analysts, designers. He skipped meals, napped in corners, coded alongside young interns, showing them the calm, steady leadership that had defined his rise. By dawn on the second day, the system was back online. The room erupted in cheers. But Sundar only smiled softly and said, "Thank you everyone now. ... I have to go home." His team watched, some with tears in their eyes as he left again, not to a mansion, not to a yacht, but to his mother's hospital room. Yet, as he reached the airport, something happened. A stranger approached him, a young woman with tired eyes, clutching a child. She hesitated, then spoke. Double quotes. "Sir, ... I know you don't know me, but I just wanted to say, when I saw what you did for your mother, it gave me courage to take care of my own parents. Thank you." Sundar's throat tightened. He reached out, squeezed her hand gently, and whispered, "Thank you for reminding me why we do anything." That night, back at the hospital, Ananya met him at the door, tears shining in her eyes. "Amma asked for you." Sundar rushed in. Amma, pale but smiling, reached for his hand. "My son," she murmured, voice thin but strong, "never forgot." Sundar pressed his forehead to hers, tears finally spilling down his cheeks. And just as he exhaled, his phone buzzed again. He froze. A message had arrived that would change everything, and this ... is where the story truly begins. The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft beeping of monitors. Sundar sat beside his mother, holding her frail hand, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath his fingers. He watched her sleep, her breathing slow, almost fragile. Then his phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen. It was an urgent message from Rajiv, his most trusted colleague at Google. "Sundar, we need to talk. Please, it's critical." His stomach twisted. After everything? After flying back to Chennai? After rushing his mother to the US for treatment? After fixing a major company issue himself? What now? He stepped out of the room, his heart heavy. He called. Rajiv's voice came through, low, intense. "I wouldn't bother you if it wasn't serious." "Tell me," Sundar said, eyes fixed on the night outside. "There's been a leak," Rajiv said. "Inside Google, someone from the top team." Sundar's chest tightened. "A leak? What kind of leak?" "Product data. Upcoming projects. Competitors are getting hints before we announce anything." For a moment, Sundar just stood there. Stars outside blurred. His mind raced, yet something inside him stayed calm. "Find out who," he said softly, quietly. No accusations yet. He ended the call, walked back into the hospital room, and sat by his mother again. She opened her eyes, a faint smile touched her lips. "You're worried," she whispered. Sundar smiled back, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. Amma! I'm always worried. Do you remember, she said, when you were a boy and your bicycle was stolen? He laughed softly. Yes. I thought my world had ended. Then what did you do? She asked. I saved money, I waited, and I bought an old one, even better. See, she murmured. You don't need to panic, you need to think. He kissed her forehead. You're right, Amma, as always. That night, Sundar didn't sleep. He sat in the hospital lounge, laptop open, going through internal reports, security logs, messages. Patterns emerged. Names appeared again and again. He reached out to Rajiv. It's someone we trust, Sundar said. We need to be sure. By morning, they had a name. Anand had been with Google for 8 years. Loyal, hardworking, respected. But recently, his life had been hard family debts, a sick child, pressure. Sundar closed his eyes. It hurt more than he expected. Instead of calling security, Sundar did something no one saw coming. He called Anand directly. Can you meet me? Sundar asked quietly. Anand hesitated. Now, yes, Sundar said. I'm in Los Angeles. Anand arrived at the hospital 2 hours later, nervous, fidgeting, eyes darting. Sundar met him outside under a tree. No guards, no lawyers, just 2 men. I know, Sundar said gently. Anand's face crumpled. He sank to the bench. I didn't mean to, ... double quotes, he whispered. They promised they'd help me, Sundar. My daughter's surgery. I didn't see another way. For a long moment, Sundar said nothing. Then quietly, he sat beside him. You've hurt the company, Sundar said. But more than that, you've hurt yourself. Anand's shoulders shook. I won't destroy your life, Sundar said softly. But you need to stop. Today. Tears ran down Anand's face. I will. Swear, we'll help your daughter, Sundar said. But you'll resign. Not as punishment, but as a chance to rebuild. Anand covered his face with his hands, shaking, broken. Grateful when Sundar returned to the hospital room, his sister was waiting. You look tired, Nanya said. I am, Sundar murmured, sitting down. But ... I did the right thing. At night, something unexpected happened. AMMA opened her eyes, stronger than before. Her doctor came in smiling softly. She's responding, the doctor said. It's slow, but it's happening. Ananya hugged Sundar tightly. For the first time in weeks, hope filled the room. They celebrated quietly that night with takeout, food, and soft music from home. Sundar sat beside his mother, telling her stories from his childhood, making her laugh gently. But even in this peaceful moment, his phone buzzed again. An invitation, a global summit, one he was supposed to skip. Leaders, innovators, world changers, but this time they wanted him not as a CEO. They wanted him as the man who chose family. You inspired people, Ananja said softly, reading over his shoulder. Maybe ... you should go. Sundar looked at his mother, her eyes closed, resting. He thought about the young woman at the airport, the people watching, the employees quietly struggling, the parents, the children, the dreamers. He realized something. This story wasn't just about him, and then, as if fate itself was listening. His mother opened her eyes, smiled softly, and whispered, Go, my son. With a heavy heart but a quiet strength, Sundar packed his bag. He kissed his mother's forehead, held Ananya close, and promised, I'll be back in 2 days. He walked through the airport. Cameras flashed again. Reporters leaned in. Mr. Pichai, you've become a symbol of hope for many. Do you have anything to say before you leave? He paused, turned to them, and said softly, Never forget where you came from. And never forget who helped you become who you are. The crowd fell silent. He boarded the plane as the engines roared to life. Sundar leaned back, closed his eyes, and wondered, what would await him at the summit? What stories would he hear? What lives would cross his path? Most of all, would he be able to carry the lessons of this journey, family, humility, kindness, into the halls of power? The answer would come sooner than he expected, because on the other side of the world, at that summit, a figure waited for him. Someone from his past. Someone whose presence would shake everything he thought he knew. The plane touched down just past midnight. The city lights shimmered like a sea of stars. But Sundar wasn't thinking about the skyline. He was thinking about his mother's soft whisper. "Go, my son." He was thinking about Ananya's hug, tight and trembling. He was thinking about the quiet tear on Anand's face when he promised to rebuild. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a small ache grew. He wondered if he was doing the right thing. At the summit venue, the air buzzed with energy. Leaders, thinkers, entrepreneurs filled the rooms. People spoke of the future, of AI, of climate change, of the next big thing. But when Sundar arrived, something strange happened. People fell quiet. They didn't crowd him with tech questions or corporate pitches. Instead, they smiled softly, nodding in quiet respect, because they hadn't just seen a CEO, they had seen a son. A woman from Kenya approached him. "My father has been sick for months," she said softly. "When I saw you leave everything to be with your mother, I bought a ticket home. Thank you." A young man from Brazil added, "I called my parents after years. Your story made me remember." Sundar's throat tightened. He hadn't planned to become a symbol. But here he was, later. That evening, the keynote began. Sundar stood backstage, holding the small note he had written on the flight. No big speech, just thoughts from the heart. But just before he stepped on stage, a voice stopped him. "Sundar." He turned, and there, standing in the shadows, was Kavya. He froze. Kavya, his childhood friend. His first friend. The girl from next door who had shared tiffin lunches, exam notes, dreams of the future. He hadn't seen her in over 20 years. She smiled softly. "You didn't expect me here, did you?" "What? How?" Sundar stumbled, his calm cracking for the first time in days. "I'm part of an NGO now," Kavya said. "We work with young girls in rural India, teaching them coding, tech, confidence. And we were invited here." Sundar's heart raced. Memories flooded in school corridors, whispered conversations. Quiet dreams. "You look exactly the same," he murmured. Kava laughed gently. "You don't." They both smiled. Something tender and unspoken between them. "Go," she said, softly nodding to the stage. "They're waiting." And so Sundar walked out, heart pounding. The lights were bright, the room silent. Thousands of eyes watched. He took a deep breath. "I was asked to speak today as a tech leader," Sundar began. "But I'm standing here as a son, as a brother, as someone who's learned that success means little if you forget who you are." He paused. "When I was a boy in Chennai, my mother saved for months to buy me my first book on computers. I left for the US. She packed me pickles in small jars because she knew I'd miss home. Everything I've built, everything I've become, stands on her shoulders." He looked across the room. People leaned in. "In the past weeks, I learned something I want to share. You can lead teams, you can lead companies, you can lead revolutions. But the greatest thing you will ever lead is your own heart." The room stayed silent, then slowly filled with quiet applause. When he stepped off stage, Kavya was waiting. "You've changed," she said softly. "Have I?" Sundar asked, smiling a little. "You were always kind," Kavya said. "But now, you're brave too." They sat together that night on the edge of the rooftop terrace, talking about old times, about Amma, about their own paths. Kavya shared stories of girls she'd worked with, girls who had fought poverty, tradition, doubt, and learned to code, to speak, to dream. Sundar listened, heart full. But then, Kavya grew quiet. "There's something I wanted to tell you," she said, eyes dark and serious. "Something you need to know." Sundar tensed. "One of the projects my NGO worked with was funded by a tech foundation," Kavya said slowly. "I only recently learned it's connected to Google." "Okay," Sundar said carefully. "And there's been trouble," Kavya whispered. corruption, funds missing, people exploiting the system, people using your name without you knowing. Sundar's blood ran cold. "Are you sure?" he whispered. Kaya nodded. "I didn't want to tell you here tonight, but you need to know." For a long time, Sundar sat in silence. The city below glittered, the stars above flickered. He closed his eyes. First Ema's illness, then the company leak. And now, this. But then, quietly, he smiled. "Thank you," he said softly, "for telling me." Kavya touched his arm gently. "Don't carry everything alone, Sundar." He looked at her, and for the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to exhale. But deep inside, he knew. This was only the beginning. Because when he returned to the US, he would face a storm far bigger than any he had faced before. And at the center of it all was someone he trusted, someone he never expected. The plane ride home felt endless. Sundar stared out the window, watching the dark ocean below. He thought of his mother, her small, fragile hands, her whisper of "Go, my son." He thought of Ananya holding everything together. He thought of Kavya, her warning still echoing in his mind. "Someone is using your name." Sundar clenched his fists quietly. He had always believed in trust and building teams and lifting people up. But now, someone inside his own world was turning that trust into a weapon. When the plane landed, he didn't go home. He went straight to the office. It was midnight. The halls were empty. The glow of computer screens lit up the rooms like quiet ghosts. Rajiv was waiting. "We've been looking," Rajiv said softly. "And ... you were right. Something's off." "Tell me." Rajiv hesitated. "The foundation that funds those rural tech projects, it's run by Dev." Sundar's heart sank. Dev, his longtime friend, his right hand, the man who had been at his side since Google was just a rising giant. "Are you sure?" Sundar asked. "Quietly, the trail points to him," Rajiv said. "But ... maybe you should talk to him before we do anything official." For a long moment, Sundar just sat there, his shoulders heavy. Then quietly he stood. "Call him now." 30 minutes later, Dev walked into the small conference room. He looked tired, his face lined, his eyes wary. "You wanted to see me?" Dev asked. Sundar looked up, meeting his gaze. "Sit." They sat across from each other. Two men who had built an empire together. Two men who had once shared dreams and late nights, code and coffee, failures and victories. "There's a problem," Sundar said softly. Watt's jaw tightened. "What problem?" "The foundation," Sundar said. "Money's missing. Dames are being misused. People are being hurt." For a moment, Dev didn't speak. Then with a shaky breath, he whispered, "I didn't mean for it to go so far." Sundar's heart clenched. Double quotes, "Dev? Why?" Dev buried his face in his hands. Brothers' company was sinking. They were going to lose everything, their home, their kids' school. "I thought if I'd just moved some funds just once, I could fix it later. But then, ... it kept going." Sundar closed his eyes. He felt everything: anger, sorrow, betrayal. Pity flooded through him at once. "Do you know how many people trusted you?" Sundar whispered. "Does." Shoulders shook. I know. I hate myself for it." For a long time, the room was silent. Finally, Sundar spoke. "You need to come forward," he said. "You need to help clean this up." Dev looked up, eyes wet. "Will you destroy me?" Sundar shook his head slowly. "No, but you have to face this. We fix this together. After that, ... you step down." Dev let out a broken sound, half a sob, half a breath. "Thank you." But Sundar's heart was heavy. By morning, news had already started to spread. Google Foundation under investigation. Misuse of funds linked to top executive. CEO Pichai promises full transparency. People watched Sundar carefully. How would he handle this? Would he protect his old friend? Would he cover it up? But Sundar stood before the cameras, voice steady. "We will take responsibility," he said softly. "Because leadership is not about avoiding failure. It's about how you face it." The world watched. and quietly, they respected him more. That night, as Sundar finally returned home, he found a message waiting. From Ananya, Amma woke up today asking for you. She smiled. She's getting better. Sundar sank into the chair, covering his face with his hands. Tears slipped through his fingers, silent, overwhelming, grateful. He had almost lost so much, but he hadn't. Not his mother, not his values, not himself. He thought back to Kavya, to her quiet warning, to Anand, the man he had forgiven. Dev, the friend he had just asked to step down, and he realized something. Strength was never about control. It was about kindness. It was about knowing when to hold on and when to let go. As he sat there in the dim room, his phone buzzed once more. Text from Kavya. Proud of you. And just as Sundar smiled faintly, a knock sounded at his door. He opened it, and standing there, suitcase in hand, was Ananya. Surprise, she whispered, eyes shining. I brought Amma home. Sundar's breath caught, and as he looked past her, he saw his mother frail, but standing, smiling softly. Eyes full of love, he fell to his knees, arms open, tears spilling freely, and in that moment nothing else mattered. Not Google, not headlines, not failures, only family. And just as he pulled them both close, his phone buzzed again. But this time he didn't answer. Because for once, the world could wait. But what he didn't know was that far away, in a place he couldn't see, yet another shadow was rising. Someone watching, someone waiting, someone ready to test everything he had just rebuilt. The house was filled with soft light. The curtains swayed gently as the evening breeze touched them. Sundar sat on the floor beside his mother's chair. Her hands rested lightly on his. Ananya stood nearby, smiling with quiet relief. I never thought I'd see you both here again, Sundar whispered. MMA smiled faintly. You always think too much, my son. They laughed softly, and for a few brief moments, the world outside disappeared. But that peace didn't last. As night fell, Sundar's phone buzzed on the table. He ignored it at first. He wanted these moments to last longer. But the phone didn't stop. Finally, Ananya picked it up, frowning. It's Rajiv. He says it's urgent. Sundar's stomach tightened, kissed his mother's forehead, squeezed Ananya's hand, and stepped outside to take the call. Sundar Rajiv's voice came through, low and tense. I'm sorry to disturb you, but you need to know. The news broke. About Dev, Sundar asked quietly. No, Rajiv said. Something else. Sundar's chest tightened. What is it? It's been a cyber attack, Rajiv said. Someone breached our internal systems. They left a message for you. Sundar froze. What message? Check your email, Rajiv whispered. Hands. Trembling slightly, Sundar opened his inbox. There it was. A message just for you, Sundar. You think you've handled everything? But I'm still here. I'm closer than you think. His heart pounded. Who sent this? He asked, voice sharp. We're still tracing it, Rajiv said, but it's someone on the inside. The words hit Sundar like a cold wave. First Anand, then Dev. Now this. How deep did the cracks go? He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling. Slowly. Lock everything down. Bring in the best security teams. And Rajiv, no one knows about this outside our circle.
How yet?
Understood, Rajiv said quietly. That night, Sundar sat alone by the window, looking out at the dark sky. Kamo was resting. Ananya had gone to bed, but Sundar's mind wouldn't stop. Who could it be? He thought through the faces.
The teams.
The people he trusted then, suddenly. A memory surfaced. A young engineer. Brilliant, ambitious, sharp, dash-edged. Arjun? He had been mentored by Sundar himself. But in recent months, he had grown distant, frustrated, hungry for more. Sundar remembered. One conversation weeks ago. I have ideas, Arjun had said, eyes burning. Big ideas, but no one's listening. Patience, Sundar had told him. Big ideas need deep roots. But Arjun hadn't wanted to wait. Could it be? The next morning, Sundar called Rajiv. "Bring Arjun in," he said quietly. "But don't scare him. Just bring him." When Arjun arrived, he looked surprised to see Sundar waiting. "Sir," Arjun said cautiously. "Sit," Sundar said, gesturing to the chair. They sat across from each other. The room was small. "Quiet, Arjun," Sundar began softly. "You know, I believe in you." Arjun shifted uneasily. "Thank you, sir." "But you've been frustrated," Sundar said, "haven't you?" Arjun's jaw tightened. I feel like I'm being overlooked." Sundar leaned forward. "If you have something to say it now." For a moment, Arjun hesitated. Then suddenly, his face crumpled. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," Arjun whispered.
I
just wanted you to notice." Sundar closed his eyes briefly. "You're the one behind the breach," he said softly. Arjun's shoulders sagged. "I left the message. I wanted to prove I could do more. I was ready," Arjun Sundar said, his voice almost breaking. "You already had my trust." Tears slipped down Arjun's face. "I was stupid. I felt invisible." A long moment, Sundar sat quietly. Then slowly, he stood. "We will fix the systems," he said. "But first, you and I will talk to the security team together." Arjun's eyes widened. "You're not firing me?" "No," Sundar said softly. "But you're going to earn back the trust you broke." Later that day, as the crisis settled, Sundar sat again by his mother's side. She opened her eyes, smiling faintly. "Trouble at work?" she murmured. "Double quotes always," Amma Sundar whispered, brushing her hair back gently. She chuckled softly. "You were always like this, worrying about everyone?" Sundar smiled, his eyes shining. "Taught me that." Amma took his hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Listen to me, my son," she said quietly. "Sometimes, to carry everyone, you need to let them walk beside you, not behind you." Her words sank deep into him. For so long he had carried everything alone. The company, the family, the mistakes. But maybe he didn't have to. That evening, as the sun set in soft pinks and golds, Sundar sat outside with Ananya. They sipped tea, watching the sky change. "Do you ever regret it?" Ananya asked softly. "This life?" Sundar smiled faintly. "Sometimes, but then I remember. Every choice brought me here, to this moment." Ananya touched his arm gently. "I'm proud of you, Anna." Sundar looked at her, his heart full. "I'm proud of you too, Akka." For the first time in weeks, he felt a quiet peace. But deep inside, a small part of him remained alert. Because even as he sat with family, even as he repaired broken bonds, he knew this wasn't over, far away. Someone else was watching, someone he hadn't thought of in years, and they were about to step into his world. The morning sun peeked through the curtains, casting a golden glow across the room. Sundar sat quietly at the kitchen table, stirring his tea without drinking it. He watched his mother from across the room, sitting up, wrapped in a shawl, smiling. Faintly as Ananya adjusted her pillows, the sound of their soft laughter filled the house. It should have been a moment of peace, but Sundar's phone buzzed again. He stared at it for a long moment before picking it up. A message from Rajiv. "We found something. Please call." Sundar's heart sank. He stepped outside, dialing quickly. Rajiv answered on the first ring. "It's not over," Rajiv said quietly. "There's someone else." "We traced the earlier cyber addict deeper, and it wasn't just Arjun." "What do you mean?" Sundar asked, voice tight. "There's another player," Rajiv said. "Someone who's been watching everything for months." And Sundar. Shh. Sundar's breath caught. Ramesh, a name he hadn't heard in over 15 years. A name that belonged to his old friend, his old rival, the brilliant, restless mind from his early days at Google. They had started together, dreamed together. When Sundar rose, Ramesh had stumbled. He left the company quietly, bitterly, disappeared into startups, then into silence, and now he was back. Are you sure? Sundar whispered. Positive, Rajiv said. He's behind the attacks. He's been testing you, waiting. The air outside was sharp with the chill of morning. Sundar walked slowly through the garden, his mind racing. Why now? Why come back after all these years? His phone buzzed again. A new message. Meet me. No security. No cameras. You owe me that. There was an address. An old coffee shop they used to go to, back in the earliest days, when Google was young. And they were just two dreamers with laptops and late nights. Sundar exhaled slowly. He went. The coffee shop was nearly empty. A faint smell of cardamom and old wood in the air. At a corner table, Ramesh sat waiting, a small smile playing on his lips. His hair was grayer now, his face leaner, his eyes sharp as ever. You came, Ramesh said softly. Why now? Asked, sliding into the seat across from him. Ramesh chuckled quietly. I wanted to see if you were still you. Sundar frowned. What does that mean? Everyone said you'd changed, Ramesh said. They said success had made you cold, untouchable, a machine. He leaned forward slightly. But then I saw you on the news, Ramesh whispered. Running home for your mother, helping the engineer who betrayed you, standing beside the friend who fell, and I thought, maybe you're still human after all. Sundar stared, heart pounding. So this was all a test? A test, Ramesh agreed softly, and maybe a cry for help. Sundar's anger softened, confusion flickering in his eyes. Why didn't you just call? He asked quietly. Ramesh's smile faded, because I was ashamed. For a long moment they sat in silence. Then Ramesh spoke again, voice rough. I failed, Sundar. Everything I touched after I left fell apart, and the worst part, I blamed you, not myself. I told myself you owed me something. Sundar closed, his eyes briefly. You don't need to burn things down to be seen, Ramesh, he said quietly. You just needed to knock on the door. Ramesh let out a shaky breath. Can you ever forgive me? Sundar looked at him, really looked at him, the brilliant mind, the restless heart, the old friend. We start by fixing what's been broken, Sundar said softly. And after that, maybe we see where we stand. Later that day, Sundar stood at the edge of the ocean, the waves cold around his feet. He had called Rajiv, told him to bring Ramesh in quietly, to help clean up the mess, to give him a chance. He had called Arjun, offered him a second chance to under close watch, but with hope. And most importantly, he had gone home, wrapped his arms around his mother, and told her everything was going to be okay. And Naya had laughed softly, saying, I told you, you can't carry the world alone. And soon, R, for the first time in years, believed it. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Kavya called. I heard, she said softly. You're quite the storm chaser these days. Sundar chuckled. Or maybe the storm finds me. Kavya's voice was warm.
You've done good, Sundar. You've done more than good.
Sundar stood by the window watching the stars flicker into the darkening sky. You know, he said quietly, for a long time I thought leadership was about power. It's about being the smartest in the room, the calmest, the most unshakable. He smiled faintly. But now I think it's about heart. On the other end of the line, Kavya whispered, it always was. That night, as the house fell quiet, Sundar sat beside his mother's bed one last time. She opened her eyes, tired but peaceful. My son, she murmured, you're home. I'm home, Amma, he whispered, tears filling his eyes. I'm home. She reached up, brushing his cheek with the back of her hand. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Not for what you've built, but for what you've carried. And as she drifted back to sleep, Sundar sat there, holding her hand, feeling the weight of the past weeks settle into something deeper, something quieter, something real. Because, in the end, it wasn't about titles, it wasn't about headlines, it wasn't about triumph or failure, it was about love, it was about resilience. It was about standing back up again and again, with kindness in your hands and humility in your heart, and for Sundar, Pichai. That was the story that truly mattered, the one he would carry forward, quietly, always.